Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sugar Era, UFC 292. Of course, Sean O'Malley might have kind of shocked the world. I mean, a lot of people thought it was going to be a good fight. It was a good fight for what it lasted. Sean O'Malley, of course, the new UFC Bantamweight champion. We'll talk about UFC 292, break all that down. Of course, PFL had their next round of the playoffs, PFL 8. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, you got to go ahead and head over to FightersFirst.shop. Get all the latest collections. Brandon's gearing up for a fight. Get the Mechanic collection. Support him on his journey. As Brandon says, it's strap season, so he's going to be laying some bombs and drama. Go ahead and check out FightersFirst.shop. Get all the latest apparel. Let our apparel be a part of your story. Brandon, how you feeling today?
Man, I feel good. Just getting ready for another day of awesomeness.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to see you back in the ring, getting that strap September 30th against Zach Kelly. Of course, we'll talk more about that as it gets closer. If you're paying attention to Fighters First, we got a real busy next couple months. We have officially, you and Kate Clemens are both fighting on September 30th. Both of you going for belts. Kate, I believe, is going for the WBC North American Bantamweight title. She is already the Canadian champion. Brandon's going for the Gut Check Championship in October on the road to one. Cody is going to be going for his contract. And then unofficially coming soon, Cedric Goodrich has a fight coming up possibly in October, as well as Anwar Alberto, Tarzan Alberto. So a lot of fighters on the Fighters First family all getting ready to fight. So stay tuned to the network, stay tuned to social media, and support all of our guys and girls because they're all putting in that work. So go ahead and support them. Brandon, today we got a couple things on plate. Of course, PFL took place last week. As well as the UFC. We're going to start off this week with the PFL and save UFC for the main event a little bit. PFL 8 had the heavyweights in action. Right off the bat, Renan Ferreira and Maurice Green. We had the ladies in action, Larissa Pacheco, Elena Koznick. We're going to start with that main event. Ever since Renan Ferreira had that issue with Fabricio Verdum, he's been on a tear. Had a little bit of trouble with his weight last year. And conditioning. This year he's been on point. And Maurice Green was just another victim. First round knockout. Of course, Maurice Green was a late substitution. What did you make of the whole fight? What there was of it?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Maurice Green saying stepped up, tried to get this opportunity to make it to the finals, but just wasn't his night, man. He got taken out. To me, his opponent just took care of business on him.
Yeah, Renan Ferreira is so big, so much to handle. Like, if you're a heavyweight, you're talking about a guy 6'8" and cutting to 265. Like, we used to talk about Brock Lesnar cutting down to 265. Some of these guys that are so big, Derek Lewis used to cut down to 265. Now he's kind of floating around there. But some of these big guys, when they're cutting weight too, like, that's crazy. The heavyweight is supposed to almost be like the unlimited division. Anything over 215 pounds, just go. And nowadays, it's just like some of these guys are so huge, they're cutting down. And Renan Ferreira, you're talking about a guy, he's so on the ground. But, man, his hands are lethal. Of course, he'll be facing off Dennis Golstov got the win over Heiderman with his submission triangle choke. So they'll be facing off in the finals. So it's going to be a striking versus grappling kind of competition. What do you think is going to happen in that finals?
Hey, man, saying if Renan can touch him up, man, I think it'll be a good night for him.
Yeah, I think it's his year. People always sleep on Dennis Golstov, though, right? Like, he's never been like the household name, but he kind of keeps winning. He keeps taking care of business. And another, against Jordan Heiderman, he got that arm triangle choke and locked it in. The guy has submission skills. He has grappling skills, and he has decent hands. So if he can defend himself, the biggest problem, like we said, going into this is size, right? Like, there's a huge size disadvantage with these two guys. I think Goldstov's like 6'2", 6'1". He's more of a stockier type heavyweight. And so it's just going to be a tough matchup for him. But I think it's going to be interesting. Over the co-main event, of course, your girl Larissa Pacheco took care of business once again. Koznick never really had a chance. 14 seconds. What did you think of that? Like,
hey, man,
is anybody going to stop her this year?
Like I said, Larissa Pacheco, man, this is her year, man. To me, she should be the favorite. I know she was the favorite in this fight. She should be a favorite in the final. Like I said, besides Kayla Harrison, nobody has beaten her in the PFL. She's been on the tear. And really also too, besides Kayla Harrison, all her wins have all been by stoppage. So I mean, she's just finishing people. To me, she just seems like she's just getting better and better and better. She's not taking any damage in these fights. So to me, she's going in healthy because she's getting these fights over quick. Usually they're all been first rounds, but this one right here, man, was under 20 seconds, done deal.
So she has a tough matchup, though. It's not like she has a walkover. She has Marina Makakina got the win over Amber Liebrick, submission, armbar. They'll be facing off in the finals. Marina only loss in the PFL was to Kayla. And other than that, she's run through everybody, including stoppages left and right. She had, it's funny. Like, she started off the 2022 season last year with that split decision win over Abigail Montez, which I thought she lost. I thought Abby actually won that fight. But since then, she's been very impressive in the 4 fights she's had. One, of course, being outside of the PFL, but the other 3 in the PFL. And this year she's been impressive, especially this playoff performance where she got the submission. Pacheco used to have an issue where she was on the ground. She was like a fish out of water, especially against Kayla. But last year in the finals, she proved even if you put her down, she can fight off her back. And she has submission skills off of her back. Is that evolution in Larissa's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game going to make her unstoppable, or does Marina have a chance?
Yeah, like I said, man, I think ever since, especially dropping down the 145, like I said, man, Larissa Pacheco has to me been in the best shape that she has been. Saying, like I said, I think her just the first couple of times saying she fought Kayla Harrison when she went down, it was just, hey man, you're going up against somebody who's like really big. And like I said, I think she was really like lifting weights, getting strong after those losses to Kayla. I think that's what made it. That's why the fight you saw when Kayla got her down, she was able to give up because I think she had that strength to be able to move somebody around. And saying her opponent to me, I think is, I want to say like smaller than her height wise. But
I think they're about the same height. I think they're both like 5'6".
But I think I think strength wise, man, I think Larissa Pacheco is going to be able to take care of business and you can lock it now, man. She's my pick to win the final.
Yeah, Larissa's 5'8", the other girl's 5'6", so it's not too much difference. But yeah, I'm favoring Larissa, of course. She's got the resume, she's got the pedigree, so to speak. Like, the only girl she's lost to is Kayla, and then she overcame that demon last year. So she's been on a tear this year, basically dropping everybody. 145 pounds seems to be a good division, even though that fight was at 148-pound catch weight. But I think that was because Kolznick came in heavy, right?
It might have been Kolznick a little bit, but I mean, it didn't matter. Kolznick has lost to Pacheco, I think, all 3 times now. I think this was the 3rd time that they fought, and she got knocked out every single time. So I don't think it really mattered.
It's going to be a good finals. Also on that card, Nate Kelly got the win over Damian Nelson. Danilo Marquez in a heavyweight matchup against Ishii got the win. And the opening fight was a little bit controversial for me. Katniss Caitlin Neal, you might remember from UFC
Tough.
Lost a split decision to Amara Mazar. Very close fight and could have gone either way. I actually had Katniss winning, but I don't think it was a robbery. I just could have gone either way. Did you see that first fight?
No, but I did hear about it. But yeah, no, I didn't come in late. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, dude. The only fight I cared about was Larissa. But I did see, I did see the main event, of course, as well, and the other.
Well, I mean, you could have watched the highlight and saw the whole main event. Like, it was pretty much it. Like, I mean, yeah, the way Hennon just kind of bullied him. But yeah, of course, PFL back in action tonight. After this show, Wednesday, the Solomon Renfro show. Your boy Shane Burgos, all of them in action in New York City. Solomon stepping in on short notice to fight Magomed Kamirov. I honestly, as a fan, I'm rooting for Solomon. I don't like that matchup for him, especially on short notice, because Magomed Kamirov is such a beast. We've seen him, especially those battles with Ray Cooper and everything else. Like, it's going to be a tough battle. It's going to be a tough battle. I'm rooting for Solomon, but we'll see what happens. Of course, Shane Burgos, with all that controversy with Schulte and everybody else getting that opportunity. Hey, we saw with Sean O'Malley. Sometimes you might not deserve that opportunity, but if you get it, take advantage. So that is the perfect segue to head over to what our main event is today, UFC 292. Of course, we moved it to later in the show because probably spent a little bit more time talking about the UFC this week. Of course, Sean O'Malley, Aljamain Sterling in the main event. We had Weili doing what Weili does against Amanda Lemos in the co-main. A lot of other great fights like Ian Gary, Chito Vera, Mario Batista. The return of Chris Weidman against Brad Tavares. So a lot of stuff going on. As always, Brandon, we'll start in the main event. It is now the Sugar Sean O'Malley era. I personally didn't think he deserved the opportunity, but I got to give him all the credit in the world. He took advantage of the opportunity. Of course, coming into this fight, he had the no contest with Pedro Munoz with the eye poke. He had I think somebody said it best yesterday. He was gifted a decision against Peter Yan. Of course, Peter Yan with the 6 takedowns and multiple minutes of control time, but Sean O'Malley got that decision, split decision. By the way, I know I'm getting a little sidetracked. Daniel Cormier is driving me absolutely bonkers on commentary because he just has such a revisionist history of everything he talks about. Everything was the greatest performance ever, ignoring split decisions, I'm not knocking that Sean O'Malley got the decision. I'm not knocking that Aljamain Sterling got the decisions. Those are facts. But the way they talk about him in hindsight, like the fights weren't even close. Like he said, Aljamain dominated Peter Yan in the second fight, but it was a split decision win that many people were torn on. Factually, Aljamain won that fight. I don't have any problem with that. But let's be real. Those were close fights. Don't diminish the opponent because you're trying to hype up what you're talking about now. But let's get to this fight. Aljamain Sterling came out, strategy of kicking the legs, trying to do different things. Was Aljamain's strategy the 100% the reason why he got caught?
No, I mean, it wasn't strategy. I mean, that's the same strategy that he does against everybody. The way how Aljamain closes distance is by using his kicks. But the thing is, he even said it in his post-fight press conference that the thing, though, that he really didn't take into account of was Sean O'Malley lateral movement, going side to side. This is something that I tell all my students. I'm saying, hey, you rather be a moving target than a standing target. You always want to change, make angles. That's what Sean O'Malley was doing. He was going to the left, going to the right, and plus two, he was using his feints to stop Aljo, and then that way he could use that feint to make more space. And that's really what happened was, because I'm saying usually most people use their hands to get in close, but Aljamain Sterling uses his legs to get in close. And you saw it. He was using his kicks, throwing them a lot, but every time he threw a kick, Sean O'Malley wasn't there, made his lateral movement, and then he just waited until that second round. When to me, I feel like Aljamain Sterling kind of just overreached, got maybe frustrated because the first 5 minutes didn't really kind of go the way how he wanted. And then, like I said, he just overreached on that punch, and O'Malley just caught him, man. Good timing, good precision, and
it's the perfect counterpunch.
And you go and you got yourself a new champion.
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen in any fight. Whether Sean O'Malley deserved to be here or not, that's not even a debate anymore because he got the opportunity and he took advantage. Aljamain said himself after the fight, if he wanted to make it a boring fight and have the crowd boo even more than they did, he could have just dragged him to the ground until Sean basically gave up, right? And I personally think that was what he should have done. Like, you don't go into a firefight with a guy known for striking. Like, Sean O'Malley's only weapon is going to be striking. He doesn't have a ground game. You saw it in the Peter Yan fight where Peter just dragged him down 6 times and held him down for so many minutes of the fight. If that's a Aljamain Sterling, that would have been ground and take your back and fight over. And I think Aljamain, if he ever gets a rematch, that's 100% what he's going to do. And I'm not taking anything away from what Sean O'Malley did because what Sean O'Malley did was land the perfect punch. Like, just lean back and catch Aljamain coming forward. Aljamain closed his eyes before the punch even landed because he knew there was nothing he could do. He knew he's just trying to brace himself. I won't get into the question of it's an early stoppage or not because Aljamain gave up his back. I know he said he was trying to get up, but if you're a referee and you see the fighter getting flurried and he turns around, then it's kind of, a no-brainer for the referee to stop the fight. Even Aljamain said so. But that leads us to a lot. There's not really much to talk about the fight, Brandon, because the fight was pretty much what it was. But that leads us to what's next for Aljamain and Sean O'Malley. Aljamain, of course, is going to want a rematch in 2024. Sean O'Malley's already called out Chito Vera for December. A lot of people don't think Cheetos deserve that shot because even though they have the history, Chito has been on an up and down kind of streak lately, even though he did win tonight, or that card. You have Merab sitting right there who never got a title shot because his best friend is Aljamain. And, of course, they have the battle of the red jacket, the thriller jacket. And then you have other people like Peter Yan who had the questionable split decision loss to him. But Peter's coming off a loss also. Who's next?
Well, it won't be Peter Yan because he's on a 4-fight losing streak.
3.
Merab is hurt, so he won't be the next guy. Henry Cejudo, who also is a name, but he's hurt as well. Both those guys are up. So really your options is Chito Vera or Aljamain Sterling. And like I said,
Merab will be back by the end of the year.
I don't know about that. But like I said, from what I hear he's saying both those guys are out, Cejudo and Merab. So I'm saying the only option you got, like I said, is Chito and Aljamain. To me, I probably would say if Aljamain really wants to rematch, like I said, he might just have to be a guy who might just have to wait, and then you just let Sean O'Malley and Chito Vera get it on. You know, like I think that's the fight to make. Saying Chito won the same night as Sean O'Malley, so that's why of course two people are going to talk about it because like I said, he won as well. You know, they both got W's. Like I said, like hey, I know you just got on Daniel Cormier, but Daniel Cormier says all the time, man, you want to fight on the same card as the champ because that way your name will always get will always somehow be in the mix. And that's what Chito Vera did.
Also, same training schedule and everything else, you know, recovery schedule. Getting a little ahead of ourselves, but Chito Vera looked great against Pedro Munoz, took care of action. I believe it was it 30-27? Yeah, pretty much 30-27. One judge had it 29-28, but yeah, Chito Vera looked great. He's had his ups and downs since that Sean O'Malley fight. He could be Sean O'Malley's boogeyman. I think Chito's definitely more well-rounded. And he's definitely a better striker than Aljamain. Aljamain's known for his grappling. Aljamain's known for a lot of different weapons being able to get you. Aljamain's striking is fine, but it's not his number one thing he does. Whereas Chito is known for his striking. Sean O'Malley, if he's a one-trick pony where all he does is his striking, I don't think he's going to be a champion for very long. In this sport, fighters evolve. So one day he might not be a wrestler. The next day he might have really good wrestling defense. You know, if that's what he's been working on that we don't see in the camp. All we ever see is highlight videos of him smoking weed and boxing and training. So we don't really know what's going on 100% in his training camp. If he's an MMA fighter, you know he's training every aspect all the time. And he's still a young guy. So his evolution we could be at the floor right now. He could still be going to the ceiling because he handpicked so many opponents on his way to the top. He famously said, I'm not going to fight top 10 opponents if I'm not getting paid top 10 money. So while he was on his first contract, he took opponents he knew he could beat, or at least had a really good chance. So we'll see what's next for him. I'd love to hear your thoughts at home and tell me who you think should be next. I personally think that they should make him wait until Merab comes back because Merab's been deserving of a title shot forever and never got that opportunity because of Aljamain. And also, I think Merab is the worst case scenario for Sean O'Malley because he's a pure wrestler. And he's not going to try to stand and bang with you. So if Sean O'Malley's wrestling defense is that good, well, that's going to be the test. And that will also give Aljamain direction because Aljamain says he needs to think about it. He said if he fought like this against Volkanovski, he'd get destroyed. So, you know, if Merab goes and takes that title, then Aljamain's definitely moving to 145. And everything kind of goes the way it was probably planned to go anyway. So. Another person is Corby Sandhagen as well, but I think the reason why one outside looking.
But I think it's because saying Sean O'Malley's the champion, he called out Chito Vera, so I think that's really why you're probably most leaning towards Chito Vera because, like I said, you know, you let the champ usually sometimes they get to call their shots, and like I said, they made this guy a star. Like I said, it's the only person who meant the UFC on social media put out the whole fight, the whole finish, to let the whole world see. So I mean,
yeah, I saw that.
Somebody. So like I said, man. So to me, that's why I feel like saying Chito Vera will definitely be the fight that they want, and they'll go from there after that. But
plus, I mean, hey, look, Cheeto's healthy. Sandhagen's not healthy. Sandhagen tore his tricep. We don't know how long until Sandhagen's going to be back. He might have been at that show, but he's not healthy.
Three hurt guys, another hurt guy.
Yeah. Also, I think he's just like slightly on the outside looking in. And, you know, he had his shots and he didn't get it done. Cheeto will take a fight anytime, anywhere, pretty much. The UFC's called him on short notice a few times, and he's always taking the fights. December is not that hard of a turnaround. It's more than 4 months away. I think it matches up for everybody, and especially Sean O'Malley, who wants to be active again after pretty much sitting out 10, 11 months waiting for this shot after the Peter Yan fight last year. Yep. So a lot of pieces fall into place. Obviously, Cheeto Vera makes the most sense. If they just want a title fight now, and then they can figure out what to do next year for marquee fights. Especially since December evidently does not have a Conor McGregor fight on it anymore. But that's a whole nother news story. In the co-main event, I have a hard time not saying Zhang Weili is the pound-for-pound best female in the planet right now. I know that's hyperbole. We just watched her fight. Of course, you still got fighters like Cyborg and Pacheco and all these other women in the business, Shevchenko and Amanda and all these other people. But what Zhang Weili did to Amanda Lemos for 5 rounds on Saturday night was an absolute beatdown. I think Lemos only had like 21 strikes the entire fight. And for Lemos's credit, super tough. She never quit. You always saw her coming forward. And some people even gave her the 4th round. Like, she always kept getting up. And despite the amount of beating that Zhang put on her, how much more do you look at Zhang as just like one of the top females on the planet, and how much more respect do you have for Amanda Lemos, who just never quit?
Yeah, I mean, hey, man, like that, fighters are tough. You know, I mean, this is one of those things where, to me, man, you got to look at the corner, man. Like saying corners got to protect their fighters, because I mean, really, man, besides the tight guillotine that she had on Weili for like for like a hot second, that was really it, man. Like the fight was all Weili. You know, hey, I get it, man. Lemos is kind of up there. I think she's 30, 34, 35. You know, so hey, man, you know, this might be her only title shot, but hey, man, we still got to have life. You know, after fighting, you gotta protect the fighter, man. But you know, again, man, Weili did what it is that she was supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame the corner for not stopping the fight, because Amanda was in it the whole time. Like, she was never knocked out. She was never like to the point where she couldn't fight. She was at the point where she just was outgunned, so to speak. Like, Zhang just had so many more weapons, so much more skill. And especially ever since she lost that wrestling battle basically to Rose, her wrestling has gone from here to like way up here. Like, she is, you know, you saw it against Carla, you saw it against, like, her wrestling is great right now. And I talk about MMA fighters evolving. Like, she worked on it. She went to, you know, they say she's in Vegas like half the year, constantly, you know, training. Like, she's training here, she's training there. You can see her English is improving a little bit in the post-fight interview. She has just evolved into such a complete fighter. It reminds me of when Valentina was fighting, was it Lauren Murphy? No, it was Andrade. And all of a sudden she pulls out her wrestling and all these different skills, because she wants to beat you wherever you think you're good at. And she wants to prove that she's the best. And as much as I love Alexa Grasso, we kind of got robbed of a Valentina versus Weili fight because Alexa still got that title. And I think Weili's now kind of stuck in a no man's land, because Tatiana Suarez is there, and possibly Yan is there, and possibly but other than the kind of like the unknown aspect of Suarez, I don't really know there's another challenger that can really compete with her. Who do you think should be next for that title?
I mean, I thought Zhang would be next. Like, to me, that's the fight to make, you know, especially too if you get that fight over in like China. You know, that would be great if they get back there again, because I'm sure that fight would sell out. But I mean, I think Tatiana Suarez has been saying big, strong wrestler. You know, saying you want to say that Zhang Weili's got good wrestling, man. Suarez will definitely be the test for that. But yo, man, but don't sleep on Zhang, man. Yo, she has good striking as well. So I mean, man, yo, she has plenty of challengers. She has two of them right there in the strawweight division. And I mean, I don't know if Zhang Weili would actually go up to 125 to fight Valentino. I mean, she could, but I mean,
She's talked about it.
We don't know if that's really on the cards.
Yeah, she hinted about it last time. And then of course Valentino lost, and then everybody stopped talking about it. And then of course we also have the two unknown factors, right? Because that division was kind of built up between Weili, Rose, and Carla. Carla, of course, coming back from having a baby some point in 2024. Rose had flirted with retirement, did a couple grappling matches. Now she's kind of got the itch again, so she's getting ready to fight again soon. Of course, we know the history between Rose and Weili. And they're always going to be kind of there because they're sitting at 1 and 2 in the rankings, right?
Yeah, I believe Rose's next fight is at 125.
Yeah. But Rose is going between divisions. She does what she wants to do. So there's a lot of interesting questions. I think more questions than answers. I think Tatiana's actually going to get the next shot just because of the way the UFC was showing her in the crowd and having her there in a position as being like next. I think Jan might deserve it more because she's been more active, obviously. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. As far as what's next for Amanda Lemos, look, there's no lack of challengers right there. Verna, Mackenzie's fighting in November, I think, or October. I think they just announced November, I think. You got veterans like Tisha Torres, Amanda Ribas, a bunch of another, like, ton of names. She could also be the one who fights either Jan or Tatiana, depending who doesn't get the shot, right? Because despite how one-sided this fight was, she didn't take a ton of damage. She came out pretty healthy from this fight. So that is the main and co-main event. Of course, there were a lot of other actions. Ian Gary stopped Neil Magny, with the decision, Neil Magny, but dominated that fight. Won over a lot of people. What did you think of Ian Gary's performance?
Hey, man, look good. Neil Magny stepped up on short notice, but hey, man, Neil Magny's a tough guy, veteran. And Ian Machado Gary just did his thing, man. He just took him to the woodshed, man, and took care of business. Yeah, kid's a rising star in the welterweight division. I think about this time we probably get some more top 10 opponents, see how he can swim in the deep waters. Mario Batista with a really good performance against Damon Blackshear. Of course, we talked about Chito Vera over Pedro Munoz with that decision. Chris Weidman broke his leg famously. Anderson Silva-like came back against Uriah Hall, had his return fight against Brad Tavares. I didn't watch all of his fight, and I was kind of surprised when I saw the scorecards because what little of I did see was Chris Weidman kind of pressing the action, holding him up against the cage, kind of trying to wrestle him, but not really doing much action. I saw Brad Tavares landing some combos, using more of his hands. And I saw some highlights later on that kind of showed me why Brad won the fight. How did you think Chris Weidman looked in his return? And did you think it was such a one-sided fight? Yeah, I mean, Tavares took care of business. He chopped on my man's good leg, and then Chris Weidman had to switch legs, and then Brad Tavares had beat up his bad leg, and that's when you saw. If you saw them hanging out afterwards, you saw Chris Weidman was in a wheelchair because, man, both legs were just beat up. But I mean, Tavares is a tough, durable guy. He's a veteran. You knew, man, he would have been a tough out if Weidman had any chance of winning. But it was one of those things where it's like you saw Weidman go for takedowns, but it didn't seem like he really was like committing for the takedown. He was just reaching his arms out trying to grab a leg, but he wasn't really trying to commit. Trying to push through. But hey, man, Tavares did his thing. I mean, I think Tavares maybe could have gotten Weidman out of there, but Tavares is such a nice guy, humble guy. Maybe felt a little sorry. So, I mean, he just kept it going. How do you feel about Dana saying that Weidman should retire? Weidman said he's not done. Hey, man, Dana's allowed to have his own opinions. Same thing with Chris Weidman, man. It's his career. He can have his own opinion. Man, I mean, man, if it was his first fight back, after an injury like that, you might not look your best. But, hey, man, it's just like any injury, man, you just got to trust your leg, got to trust how everything is and go from there. He'll be much. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I think he'll be much better his next fight out. He survived a fight on that leg. He knows it's not broken again. Like,
I think, yeah, if he comes out another fight, it's no different than a football player, somebody tearing their ACL and taking a couple years. Not everybody's Adrian Peterson can come right back, right? Some people have to, like, it takes a year plus to, like, to really get in there and fighting. I'm sure it takes a couple fights. Would he have liked to come in and got a win? Sure, but he fought Brad Tavares, who's always been one of those guys of the middleweight division that can beat you on any given night. He's never been a top guy there, but he's always been around the top, so he's always been competitive. I mean, I still remember Brad 10 years ago fighting in Fairfax, or 11 years ago fighting in Fairfax, and just such a humble, nice guy. Such a nice guy. Ray Sefo talked really good about him when we did the interview for Unfiltered. Brad Tavares is just one of those really good guys in the sport, and I wish he had had more opportunities in the sport, to be honest with you. Gregory Rodriguez, big knockout, elbow against Denise Tulilan in the middleweight division as another fighter to take a look at. Kurt Hollowball got the win in the lightweight division against Austin Hubbard. He had a triangle choke. Brad Katona and Cody Gibson was a fun fight to watch. Andre Petrosky with the split decision win over Gerald Merchat. Very close fight. Natalia Silva with the win over KGB Lee. And then Karine Silva got the win over Maurice with the guillotine to open up. Any of those other fights kind of stand out as highlights for you?
Hey man, I mean, the two Ultimate Fighter finale fights, they were both good, man. Like saying it was good. It was good jiu-jitsu in the lightweight one, and then in the bantam one, man, between Gibson and Katona, man, they were just banging it out, man. Tough guys just standing in there.
Yeah. Of course, UFC in action next weekend, or this weekend in Singapore, of all places, which you would have thought would have been a perfect place to put Weili, but they needed to co-main for this fight, this card, pay-per-view, over a fight night card. They got a really couple weird scheduling things going on coming up. Of course, they got Max and Korean Zombie in Singapore, which is cool. But they also have the Mexican Independence Day coming up with Alexa and Shevchenko. That's not a pay-per-view. That's just a regular card as well. Which I kind of find disrespectful a little bit to Alexa because, here she is, her first title offense, and she doesn't even get pay-per-view points on it to make more money. But, it is Mexican Independence Day, so it kind of balances out, I guess. Some weird scheduling, but, the UFC is going to do what they got to do to keep the ship moving. Of course, this is a pay-per-view. They had to have 2 title fights, or at least they try to usually. Of course, John Jones is trying to get the Colby Covington, Leon Edwards fight off of November, evidently, according to Colby.
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm just saying, I know you brought up about the whole Mexican independence thing, but I think the UFC was smart because I don't think they would have got a lot of pay-per-views if it was pay-per-view. Because
you don't think Grasso, Shevchenko too would have sold some pay-per-views?
It would have, but not to the Mexican crowd because you got a choice. Either, hey, I either get Alexa Grasso on the 17th or I rock Canelo Alvarez on the 30th. I'm gonna rock Canelo Alvarez.
I thought Canelo was fighting the same weekend, no?
No, it's the 30th, man. They're fighting the same night as me.
They're trying to steal your thunder? Exactly,
but it's all good.
We all know what we're gonna be watching. We're gonna be watching Canelo.
Yeah, right.
I'm just kidding. I will be at least hitting up Carissa for a lot of highlights.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of stuff going on coming up, man. This fall is going to be busy as always. Like I said, all our first fighters are in action in the next couple months. So support the fighters, support the brand. Head over to FightersFirst.shop. I know I constantly keep plugging this, but those fighters get supported a lot by this merch, and it's a way for you to show your love and also support them in other ways than just being there at the fights. So, any final words this week, Brandon?
Man, just keep rocking with us, guys. Remember, like, subscribe, share it, and comment. Let us know who you think should be next for Sean O'Malley, and let Mike know that. Let Mike know that Larissa Pacheco is about to get this dub in the final.
I hope she does. I hope she gets it quick so we can get another Kayla fight early 2024 for that pay-per-view.
Hey, man,
talk about putting Kayla on this pay-per-view in November, but we'll see.
Hey, man, PFL is out here making moves, man. They're signing more women boxers. They just signed Savannah Marshall, which I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I guess they're gonna reopen the 155 division because you still have Clarissa Shields, and I'm saying Clarissa Shields is not getting down to 145.
She just resigned too.
Yeah, and I'm saying, and Savannah Marshall, when she just won the 160-pound titles in boxing, so to me, you'll be a 155er as well. So that's two people so far that you got 155.
And Kayla.
Yeah, and Kayla, if that's what she wants to be, or she wants to drop down to 145.
We've seen Kayla make 145 in Titan.
Yep.
Or what? No, it was Invicta. Like we've seen her make a 145, but we know she's more comfortable at 155. They built that whole division for her.
Yeah, so that's what I'm just trying to think. Are they trying to have a 155, a 145, and a 125 women's division now? But I mean, I guess
Amanda Serrano's gonna be in that 125.
Yeah, so I mean, hey, we just gotta see. Like I said, they just had the ladies. Remember we just talked about the girl from the Ultimate Fighter, Caitlin. She was that 125 fight. So I mean, it's like they're trying to have, I guess, three. I guess they're trying to have three women divisions. I guess like I said, 125, 145, and 155.
I feel like the 155 might be a special pay-per-view division. Like I feel like that's what they might do with it. There's a lot of questions, more questions than answers when it comes to the PFL. The Bellator deal looks like it fell apart last week. It was pretty much set to be announced, and then Viacom stepped in and said they wanted certain things, and Bellator said, PFL kind of said, well, let's take a step back and reassess. And now Bellator, of course, is heavily promoting Bellator 300 coming up. So I guess we'll see if that deal happens. It might not happen towards the end of the year now instead of August like everybody thought it was going to happen. Because Viacom said they wanted more. They wanted more for that deal. So, and Bellator, Scott Coker seems to be business as usual. They're not having as many events. They're having more special events, trying to pack their cards instead of having an event every few weeks. They're trying to have bigger cards. And maybe that's their strategy, especially since they have Showtime and other people they have to appeal to. Whereas PFL is trying to be as active as possible. Not only their seasons, but their super pay-per-view, as they call it, coming up. You could see Nate Diaz and Jake Paul going to MMA. You could see, obviously, Francis coming after he has his fight with Tyson Fury. All these women boxers you see getting signed. Some of their more marquee people. There's been talk of a Ray Cooper return. So there's a lot of moving parts. Personally, I hope Ray Cooper actually jumps ship to Bellator or UFC, because I feel what they did to him this year was kind of shitty. Kind of leaving him outside because he wasn't healthy enough for the beginning of the season. But they had so many people jump in, including the Solomon Renfro, like in the middle of the season for different divisions. They could have had Ray come in and had a couple fights. Instead, he's been sitting on the sideline the whole time, and now I think his contract is up. I think he had one fight left in his contract, or by, I think, was it April? And they didn't use him, so now he's a free agent, I think. So he doesn't even have the PFL listed on his social media either. So, but he is, when I think of the PFL welterweight division, I think of Ray Cooper. So I think those two sides need each other more. But I think you get more opportunity in the UFC or Bellator, especially Bellator, with that welterweight being a little bit thinner. So. All right, Brandon. Well, another week in the wraps. Art of MMA episode 119. Thank you for tuning in, folks. He is the Mechanic in action September 30th. I'm Mike Yin. This is Art of MMA, and we're out.